Welcome to a video on evaluating expressions. Alright, let's take a look. Sometimes in algebra you're asked to evaluate an expression, not necessarily solve an equation. Okay? Evaluate an expression usually means that you are going to take some value and plug it in for some variable. And sometimes there will be a whole list of them. For instance, x equals -2, y equals 10, z equals 3, and you have to plug all those in where they're supposed to go. So here's our expression, 2x to the second power minus 5x. And sometimes they'll put a semicolon and then indicating that we want to evaluate when x is -2. What I recommend is write the equation down, but put a parentheses in every position where there's a variable. Okay, it serves several different purposes, mainly to help you put the correct sign in the correct place, and also when you're dealing with exponents, it can be tricky sometimes if you forget to put parentheses. So now that I've drawn it out, I'm going to take my -2 and I'm going to substitute it in place of x everywhere there was a x in my original expression. Then you work it out using the order of operations. Exponents comes first. -2 to the second power is -2 times -2, which is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. Bring everything else down. Continuing the order of operations, I need to do multiplication before I do addition and subtraction. So in this case, -5 times -2 is a positive 10. And my resulting answer is 18. I would also like to take a second and show you how you can do this in your calculator. This particular calculator, you are able to input the parentheses just like I did by hand. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and do the 2, my parentheses where there's a variable, my exponent, minus 5 parentheses. Okay, I've done the exact same step that I did by hand on the first step, and now I'm going to go back and input a -2 using my navigation wheel everywhere there was an x in the expression. Boom, same answer that we got when I did it by hand. Sometimes expressions are a little more complicated than that one was. For instance, this particular expression is a fraction. It's got more than one variable. Same process. I'm going to start by writing the expression, putting a parentheses everywhere there is a variable. And this should help me set up my expression correctly when I get ready to solve it, to evaluate it. In place of x, I'm going to put a -5. Place of y, I'm going to plug in a -2. And just because I don't have a lot of space on this paper, I'm going to do this one using the calculator. Remember, when you have when you know that the entire problem has a division bar or a fraction, you hit the little a. It's above the number 7. It's a with a little b, c beside it. That's going to give you your fraction bars, and I'm going to start carefully inputting my stuff on top. I'm going to do it the way I taught you by putting the empty parentheses first. It's just a good habit to get into. Now that I have my expression set up, I'm going to go back in and plug in my values. For x was -5. And I'm going to go plug in my y values, which was -2. Make one double check to make sure I've inputted in correctly in the calculator. Boom, I get a solution of 25/2. Alright, let's take a look at a kind of basic word problem scenario here and see if we can apply what we've learned so far. This is a very common and very useful formula. It's the distance formula, but in the form of distance equals rate times time. A lot of times you'll see it as d equals rt. Now, even though this is an equation, not necessarily an expression, I still want to show you the process of plugging in values in order to evaluate or find a solution or whatever it is the question's asking for. This question says, what is d for distance if the rate is 10 and the time is 60. Now I do notice that I didn't use units like seconds or miles per hour for this particular problem. Right now I'm just focusing on the plugging in process. So I don't know my distance yet, but I do know the formula says that it is rate times time. So I've set up my parentheses, and now I'm going to plug in the necessary values. It tells me that my rate is 10. I'm going to plug that in place of the R, and that my time is 60. I'm going to plug in place of the T. This one I can do by hand. I don't necessarily need the calculator for it. 10 times 60 means I have a distance of 600. All right, thank you for watching.